Hello, everyone. Welcome to this wonderful podcast that we're going to tell you more about. But first, I am Mr. Carlton, and I get to be one of the great co hosts of this podcast. And I'm going to pass it to my co host.
Mr. Carlton, thank you so much. Excited to be here. Excited to get this show going. People call me Coach Ruiz, or Enrique is my first name. For the podcast, we go by Coach Ruiz and Mr. Carlton. So excited to be here, Carlton. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited. This was, we were just talking about how easy this came together, and we'll share some more details about that in a second. But Coach, do you want to go ahead and do the honor and share the wonderful title of this podcast for the first time on our first episode?
Yes, sir. This podcast is titled Conversations with Coach Ruiz and Mr. Carlton. Let's have the conversation.
Yes, indeed. We are here to have the conversation, and there are a lot of conversations that need to be had. And I'm very, very excited about being able to do this with you, sir. But before we get into the purpose of why we are here and how we got to this moment with all of you wonderful listeners, we wanted to share a little bit about us. So, for example, I'm Mr. Carlton, or Carlton, and I'll explain the Mr. in a second, but I'm in the Chicago land area. So I'm not in Chicago, but I'm in the land that surrounds Chicago land area, aka the suburbs. I am basically a HR professional that specializes in talent acquisition, and I have a deep passion for leadership and career development. A little bit about me personally is I am married and I have a 2-year-old son who you might hear. I can't hide him. You might hear him in the background. He's currently right now drinking some milk in his high chair and eating some strawberries. So he may make an appearance every now and then. So the Mr. Carlton, so about 11 years ago, I did a program where I volunteered for a year full time at a middle school or elementary school in Chicago terms on the west side of Chicago, where I got to tutor and mentor 8th grade students. And they all called me Mr. Carlton. I am still in contact with some of those students. 2 of those students were actually my best men in my wedding a few years ago. And as adults, they're both over 21, and they both still to this day call me Mr. Carlton. So it has turned into a nickname, and it's endearing, and I love it. And it's adorable to see 2 grown black men call me Mr. Carlton, because that is still how they see me. And I think that is kind of cool and also humbling. So that is a little bit about me. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to the coach.
Thanks, Carlton. Yeah, no, I mean, I know we talked about this off air, Carlton, but we have a lot of similarities. I think that's why we're kind of us meeting and us connecting and doing this podcast is kind of serendipitous. We have very similar life moments. I too am in talent acquisitions. I live in Portland, Oregon. If y'all don't know, it's a state on the west side between Washington and California. That's where we are. I also live in the suburbs, kind of. My address is still Portland. People will debate it, but my address is Portland. And I'm married to an amazing, probably the best audiologist on the West Coast. Shout out to Audiology. And I have 2 little ones. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, Samuel and Ezekiel. And we have a 3rd on the way, Carlton. Come help me out, please. You want to watch the kids a little bit?
I'm sticking with my one son, and that's it. You over there having a lot of fun.
It's wild out here. Yeah, a little bit about my career. I kind of, just like a lot of other recruiters, I fell into staffing at a young age, and I really found that I enjoyed it, and I was pretty decent at it. Before my staffing days, I had kind of like a businessy kind of side to my jobs, sales and things like that. But in college and in high school, I did a lot of leadership development kind of programs and camps, and one of them was called Anytown, Arizona, and Anytown really kind of helped mold my mind around leadership. And I was very lucky to meet a man by the name of Bill Saul. Bill Saul, unbeknownst to me, was this just very amazing, successful businessman in the Phoenix area where I'm from, in Phoenix, Arizona. And he kind of, took me under his wing, and to this day, we text almost every day, pretty frequently. And he kind of helped my frontal lobe as a young man expedite its maturity, I think. And I've always kind of enjoyed thinking about leadership. I always tell people jokingly, I mean, it's not a joke, but the first book I read on leadership was a book called Who Moved My Cheese. It's all about dealing with change in different ways. And I read it like in the library of like junior high school, and I was like, this is amazing. And ever since then, I think, it was like a pivotal, like mind molding moment. And I have a book right here. That's my next read. It's called Do Big Things. So I'm excited to kind of get going on that for the new year. So yeah, recruiting has been my career. I've developed a career kind of in recruiting. I'm currently the senior talent acquisition manager for for Thesis. It's the company I work for. They're a digital marketing firm, and on the side, I guess you could say, or I do a lot of leadership development. I volunteered a lot in Portland. I have mentees as well. And it's cool to be here, Carlton. I think I feel like I'm here like watching you, like I'm your guest, but I know we're doing this together. So I feel really, I've always wanted to do something like this, and it's excited to see where this will go.
Yes, yes. You are not a guest. You are a co-host, and you had an idea, and I just helped it come to life.
That's true. It's funny. At my company, we do this thing called Strengths Finders, the Gallup kind of program. And my thing is like visionary, like set the vision, cast it, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do things. Like guys like, oh, let's go climb a mountain. But it's like you're gonna need a backpack. I'm like, oh yeah, backpack makes sense. We should probably do that. So yes, thank
Yes,
you
and
for
I'm
doing a
I'm
lot of the
action.
legwork.
I'm all action and
Yeah.
executing, and let's get it done. So that's why this is a good it's a good flow. I believe in operating in your ministry. That's what I believe.
Amen. That's right.
That's a word. That's a word. So uh that's a little bit about us, and you'll learn more about us
Hmm.
as we move through these episodes. But we want to talk a little bit about why this podcast, why have the conversation. And our mission is basically we feel very passionate that leadership matters. And we also feel we all have the capacity to be a leader. Leadership can be applied to your personal and professional life. In this space, we will talk about how to be authentic in your leadership style and the responsibilities that come with leadership. That is the theme of all of our podcasts. Even if the topic is different, the theme is always going to be centered around how do you show up, right? And I used to say this at one of my other jobs. I would tell my coworkers, I would say, I need your leadership to show up in this moment. And that is the theme of this. The theme and the purpose of this podcast is talking about that in the midst of different topics that we will walk you through in a second. Coach, did you want to add anything about the mission and purpose of this?
No, I mean, I think you hit it right on. The thing that I would just add is I've always felt that there's like these two worlds. There's like, because I've read these books, right? I've read a lot of these leadership development or self help books. Um, and I've always felt that there's like not a connected tissue between the kind of background that I come from, which is we could talk about it, another episode or whatnot, and then like these books that's like these super like perfectly written, like articulate, really awesome books, but the connective tissue between like, for lack of a better word, like urban kind of kids that like me that are now in the professional world. I think that through this podcast we'll be able to kind of help bridge that gap or connect that tissue between like, oh my gosh, the book Good to Great, or you know Leaders Eat Last, or all these cool, great books out there, to be able to help people understand that there is like this library of great leadership thoughts, but there's also like we're in 2022 now. We're about to be in 2022,
Yeah.
and there's a way in which we can uh, intake some of this knowledge, historical knowledge, and implement it really today. Like, what is it really? It's like when people read the Bible, it's like, well, how does it interpret to my life today? Because I'm not like, in the desert somewhere in the Middle East with no clothes on and sandals and stuff, like it's different. So I'm just excited to be able to, even if it's one person listening, to say, hey, like, here's a thought that came from this book or from this article, from this post or this person, this leader, and here's what it can mean for you today. So, yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And book reviews is a part of our show, so we will definitely
Yes,
be
sir.
talking more about the books that are really meaningful to us. So I'm going to walk you all through our segments so you just know what to prepare for, because this is a movement, this is a moment. So we will start each show with, we have our quote of the week. We have a monthly challenge. So each month, me and the coach are going to challenge ourselves to do something for that month. And we're going to talk about our progress towards accomplishing that challenge and the ups and downs. And there will be times where we probably won't meet the challenge, but that's the part of being, authentic and humble in that. We'll also share, what is on our mind, what are we thinking about, and have a conversation about that. We have a segment called In the Press. So, what is happening in the world, and how does leadership weave through those things? And we're going to talk a great deal about that. And like I said earlier, we'll do a book review monthly and just share some of our takeaways from that book. And we encourage you to read that book as well. And then once a month, we are going to interview someone. We're going to interview someone, and we're going to interview a leader. And let's be clear, leader isn't necessarily attached to popularity. So we are looking to interview people that are that show up authentically in their leadership, and they'll be able to share some wisdom with all of us. And then we encourage you, if you have any questions about anything. So, like, the reason why we shared our professional background as being HR professionals is we want to encourage everyone to email us if you have questions about, your resume, or if you have questions about how to prepare for an interview, or if you have questions about how to set boundaries with your friends and family and how to lead in that way. So whatever questions you have that you want us to answer on the podcast, we will end every show with going through some of those letters and emails about what people want us to talk about and answer. What did I miss, Coach, about our segments?
No, I think people should tune in, and I think this these kinds of conversations they'll be easy to listen to while you're working out, while you're out and about going for a walk. We want to make sure that people can just listen and intake some of the thoughts, um, future visions. This is where I'm at right now, Carlton. Like helping people, like maybe we could create a journal for people. You do your creative writing, I do my design kind of spiel vision for it, and have people have the journals ready to go so that they can kind of set their visions for themselves. um People can follow us on social media to kind of keep up to beat with like the stuff that we're doing, but just want people to be able to take, even like I said, even if it's just one person walking away like, oh my gosh, like that's a great thought for the week or a thought for the
Mm,
whatever. I think we're living in a time where this kind of thing is needed. The world's kind of been going through some downs, and we're getting. I always tell people these last few years, these last at least couple years, have been kind of feeling like a bear just swiping at us. And I think it's time to kind of get back to the positives and to the good things, and really kind of tap into leadership and um, give people some fresh thoughts out there for how they can think about leadership.
agreed. In closing, We just want to thank you all for joining this moment with us. And if you want to send us any questions that you would like us to talk about on the show, please email us at Enrique and Carlton podcast at gmail.com. That is Enrique and Carlton podcast at gmail.com. Where can they find you, sir, on social media?
I'm really, for the most part, I'm plugged into Instagram. It's just Leadership Matters. That's my little hashtag, or at Leadership Matters. And I I kind of debated internally, like, oh man, should I just make my own Leadership Matters, or should I make like just Enrique's profile? And I think what I came to is just like it's all one. Like I didn't want to separate like the brand between me and myself and the brand. So it's some of the stuff is like my kids and stuff, and but it all has the sprinkle of like a leadership thought on it. And yeah, on Instagram at Leadership Matters, or on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a big one for me. Carlton, I have way more followers on LinkedIn than I do on Instagram. Isn't that crazy? Like,
no, because we use LinkedIn professionally.
yeah, but followers, not connections. Followers. I'm like, wow.
Oh, people actually following you. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
it's crazy.
You're someone people should follow.
That's right. That's right. How do we close these? Are we just like cut?
Well, can I share how they can follow me?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we should do that.
Thank you, sir. So they can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Carlton Now, and then on Instagram they can follow me at Mr. Carlton Now. Same on both.
Love it.
So thank you everyone for tuning in to this, kind of intro episode. You should be able to see episode 2 should already be uploaded as well. So go check that out to get the full feel of what we're trying to do here. So thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.